James Anderson.
Good afternoon. I wish to speak to you guys today with the words from people more experienced and more intelligent than I. Most of my sources are well known. George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Joseph Smith, Ezra Taft Benson, just to name a few. These patriots passed away many years ago, but their messages are still important today. The core principles most relevant to my discussion today are that man's rights to life, liberty, and property are God-given and his own, not to be restricted by any other person or government. There are only two possible sources for the origin of these freedoms we've come to know as human rights. They are either God-given as part of a divine plan, or they are government granted as part of a political plan. Intellectual reasoning and testimony of those who penned the Constitution lead me to believe that they are in fact divine rights. If we accept these premises that human rights are granted by the government, then we must be willing to accept the corollary that they can be denied by the government. I, for one, will not accept that premise. Since God created man with certain unalienable rights, a man in turn created the government in order to secure and safeguard those rights. It follows then that man is superior to the creature which he has created. Man is superior to the government and should remain master over it, not the other way around. Without property rights, no other rights are possible. There are those who offer immorally that there is a public interest higher than that of private property rights. The Constitution very clearly sets forth that the proper role of the government is to defend an individual's rights to his life, his liberty, and his property. Ultimately, property rights and personal rights are the same thing. The most basic property is, after all, the individual and the individual's unique mind. I hold that the Constitution denies government the power to take from the individual either his life or either his liberty or his property. The actions of men individually is applicable to the government. In other words, if I have not the authority to do it for myself, the government has no authority to do it either. Man is independent and individual and should be free from the abuse of another man and the government he has created. Man holds these rights not from the collective public nor for the public, but against the public, as a defense and a barrier which the public cannot cross. These rights are man's protection against all other men. Any group, any neighborhood, HOA, or government that attempts to negate a man's rights is wrong. It is in direct contradiction with the aforementioned laws of God and the supreme law of man, individuality. It is in opposition to freedom, private property, and the Constitution. Whenever man is made to act without his own free, personal, individual, voluntary consent, his rights have been violated. Since man has inalienable rights, this means the same rights are held individually by all men, every man, at all times, and should not be oppressed. Individual rights are not subject to a public vote. A majority has no right to vote away the rights of the minority. The political function of rights is precisely to protect minorities from oppression from the majority. After all, the smallest minority is the individual. I'm fit for the City Council because I understand what the proper role of government is. I am not connected with any of the political circles here. I'm not anyone's yes man. I'm done.
Thank you. Appreciate that.